Welcome, folks. Thanks for attending. We appreciate that you are here sharing this event with us. I have to ask, did you miss me? For those of you who don't know, my name is Joe Muccioli. I'm the Artistic Director for the Jazz Arts Project, a nonprofit organization which for more than 16 years has been presenting and honoring jazz with world-class concerts, high-level education programs for area youth. Well, we've taken some time since the holidays, and we have been doing some planning to see how best to continue our mission. How best to mentor the young musicians in the area, how to bring you the best of the best music performances, and how to transition to open concerts when possible. Of course, there's a story to tell about what we really plan for today, and maybe we will get to that in a little while. Meanwhile, as an organization, Jazz Arts Project has always honored the vast cultural gifts that have been pioneered by African Americans. We remain steadfast in our commitment to diversity and inclusion in all of our presentations, educational programs, and community outreach. As expressed in our overarching philosophy, it informs our mission. Jazz music is a uniquely American art form. It is pure expression of individualism within the confines of social and musical structure. It is an amalgam of several disparate cultures blending into one swinging melting pot. Born of hope and freedom, jazz celebrates American values and portrays clear democratic ideals, even though it was pioneered and performed largely by those who were routinely denied the full extent of the American dream. At its origins, it is the cry of a race of people transplanted against their will to American soil, a reaction to the oppression and the horrors they endured, and an expression in music of that which could not be openly said. Jazz music has always been inclusive, however, taking on all who wish to enjoy it, dance to it, play it, listen to it. This music is non-discriminating. It has gladly absorbed elements from cultures from all over the world, from Cuban rhythms and West African drumming to brass bands to the blues to spirituals, ragtime, even Western classical music and opera inform the structure and harmonic underpinning of most, or if not all, of jazz. It is not really a music of isolation or racial singularity. Even at its origins, arguably in New Orleans, and at the turn of the last century, a peculiar urban mix of that society gave rise to the music, and thus it was able to absorb and celebrate diversity and democratic ideals from so many different cultures that were just in the neighborhoods. Yes, it is a music that is still alive and vibrant and still passed down from generation to generation. Of course, the music evolves continuously and reflects new cultures and performers everywhere it goes. So over the years, this music has been celebrated and performed by people of every race, creed, and culture. It is arguably America's greatest and most welcome export. It is America's music. And so today, on the last day of a short month of February, we celebrate and honor Black History Month. So I've asked our good friend, jazz artist, award-winning jazz artist, I should say, Don Braden, to join us today to lead our discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, you know him, you love him, Don Braden.
Yay! Don.
Oh, I'm on. There we go.
You're on.
Oh, great intro.
Everyone, thanks for coming. I'm honored to be here.
I'm sorry. The only thing I couldn't figure out was how to stop the share.
Hey, Joe, thank you for having me, man. That was a really thoughtful and beautiful intro. Um, well, we could base our so many elements in there of things we could base our discussion on. Um, uh, wow, I'll say a little bit about a couple of my thoughts, and then I'll invite a couple of our special guests who are great friends of mine who are doing remarkable things. Um, First off, Joe, thank you for again your organization for the work you do and for really committing to spreading this music with sharing this music with the youth. There's so many great things, and you talk about democratic ideals, which is so core to what jazz is, and its reflection of America. It's something that the idea of collective voices with that are collected from the individuals who in turn have their say, right? That's really what America's about. We're all together working together, but we have our individual say, and we all have an influence on the direction of what happens with us. And jazz is really about that on the bandstand. In fact, jazz in so many ways is a microcosm of life. And just going on beyond for a hot second, beyond the idea of even the Black History Month element of it, I look at the reason I teach jazz is because it's such a great model for leadership, creativity, teamwork, empathy, how to listen, discipline, rhythm. The value of rhythm. Rhythm is huge. I mean, rhythm really sets our life. Our heart, everything from our heartbeat to the rhythm of the day to the rhythm of circadian rhythm of our bodies. There's all these rhythms. Jazz represents that. Be a leader, how to be a follower, how to be a follower, how to support someone. Um, you know, um, on and
If I
on.
can, if I can just interject,
Yeah.
and you teach that to
Yes.
students who are not necessarily going to go on to become professional musicians,
Well, that's the point, right?
but it's part of their experience to become human or to being
Exactly.
human.
Exactly. And that's, I mean, I've taught thousands of students literally
Sure.
over the decades. I've been teaching since the 90s. And so, I don't have any, plan or desire necessarily to create, thousands of professional jazz musicians, although that'd be great. I still want, I mean, I want
If we had the gigs for everybody, sure.
well, the idea would be that we'd value live players like they do in Cuba. I went to
There,
my family went to Havana about 4 years ago, and just every restaurant has people playing in it. Every hotel lobby had people playing like live. I was like, my jaw was dropping.
yeah.
It was, say what you will about the various systems about Cuba and communism or whatever, whatever it all is politically, and the challenges there, which are very, very many. The musical side of it, in terms of the value of live music, is just a profound thing to be a part of and to witness.
Here, here.
That's what I mean. Is like if we value music like that, so that every venue had players, then we melt down all the guns and turn them into instruments. That'd be my thing. I mean, if you needed to shoot a thing every once in a while, cool. But I mean, for the most part, let's turn them all into instruments and let's all sing instead of whatever. Anyway, but I
That's
would
good.
love them all to be playing instruments. Everybody are singing or dancing, so that that part of our soul gets its nurturing.
Yeah.
Our brain gets a little nurturing and our bodies get a little bit whatever, but our soul, one of the main, of course, a lot of things nurture our soul, but one of those incredible things, of course, is music. And jazz is one of the best for that because it has this whole team thing in addition to the individual working together. And the standards are so high that you can spend your whole life exploring it. It's like going into its own world of multifaceted rooms everywhere. You can just check out all kinds of windows and chairs to sit in and cabinets to open and things to explore. So jazz is just fantastic. So I'm proud to give that gift to as many students as possible, just to be able to open those little doors every day, even if they don't do it professionally, but to just have that be a part of their life to nurture their soul.
Well, that's one of the things I've always admired about you is that how much you have given to the education part of it, certainly.
Yeah,
As well as the performances.
yeah. Well, at the core, I mean, I'm still, if I'm being honest, I'm a player first. I'm a really
Yep.
and my whole teaching thing is besides that philosophy and that the idea of sharing this incredible music is leading from the front. That's really my philosophy of teaching. I see two components for teaching for me. One is leading from the front, which means I'm gonna be right in there with you, going with it. We're gonna do it together and work it out. And number two is teach someone to teach themselves. That's my other teaching philosophy. It's like my goal is not to give them some data per se, but to give them the tools via which they can forge their journey. And that's what jazz is about.
Discovery.
Discovery, but also self-expression, self-reflection, and then often self-healing and self-soothing all come from music. And, that's all part of your resiliency, which I think is an essential part of what we all should be teaching our young people, how to be more resilient. I mean, gosh, look at the times we're in now.
Especially now, yes.
Resilience is the key to everything in any times, right? And so, this is why I teach jazz. And I look at it when I teach it framed with the life lesson aspect of it. And then we get down to details. I mean, I can push it through giant steps and whatever we need to get to if we're really getting serious about the details. But, overall, my thing is really the life lesson aspect of it. And then teach you how to fish. And then you can go and, I can show you, hey, look, here's 15 scales, 12 keys, here's 200 tunes, here's, 200 jazz masters to study, etc. We just go through that process, and then within that you find your voice to express. Right. Well, if we pull it back to Black history, the Black experience aspect of it, here's the part that's really fun for me. Besides, what I just said, is that the music comes from the energy of the people who withstood the Middle Passage and withstood slavery. So think about that. Think about who those people are. They withstood all that. So those people had to have all these incredible attributes. And so oftentimes I'll do workshops with students. I'll just have them think about that. I said, think about, slaves are often depicted as these beat down creatures, which of course they were. The worst misery you can basically imagine for the most part, other if you're assuming you're alive, right? So then, but obviously within, they weren't entirely beat down, were they? No, they were these powerful people that they, did a job and they did what they had to do and they suffered. But in the end, there's all this power within all of these people. And that power is what ultimately gave rise to all of the spectacular achievements of African Americans through the 400 years. I mean, you're talking about, I was writing some notes about this discussion. I thought, since slavery was abolished. Well, no, actually, even before slavery was abolished, you're talking about innovators. Well, I'm not sure about inventions and stuff. We could look that up, but I'm really thinking about Harry Tubman and some of those guys in Philly, and like that engineered societies of early freed slaves before the Emancipation Proclamation. Before and all that Frederick Douglass, all these people that were doing all this, putting all this energy in the early 1800s, and spectacular. So that energy would their fathers and their grandfathers and great grandfathers and great grandfathers, those people had to be. Think about how magnificent they had to be in a way to withstand all that, still give rise to these incredible people who then ultimately pulled all those people out of slavery some kind of way, with a ton of help, of course, but they convinced them. They were, it brings in the whole concept of empathy, which is another thing of what jazz is, because in the end, the people who are not black, who are not slaves, which amount to millions of white people, said, oh my God, what have we done, kind of thing, and then working together through a horrific, chunk of history, right, the Civil War and all this and everything since, and still continues right to this day, moving us to the place where ultimately the real I don't want to use the word acceptance, but the real realization and acknowledgement of the true American humanity of these black people is fully realized and expressed and interwoven into what everything is. I mean, we still have ways to go to get to that point. But, I think that the music overlaps so strongly with that power that gave rise to all of that. And that's really why I'm so proud to be a jazz guy, because, or proud of my blues player colleagues or my gospel friends. One of our guests is a very strong gospel singer, in addition to being a great jazz singer. And
that's very well said and very profound. And in all this,
Yeah,
the music is such a happy music.
exactly,
I mean, you want to tap your toe to even the blues. You
exactly,
know,
exactly. That's the spectacular gift of jazz. Is that considering where it came from, it's ultimately a gift of entertainment. That's really where jazz music at its core. What really made it, if we're being honest about the socioeconomic reality of jazz, it survived and flourished because it was entertainment. It was fun to listen to. The freedom, the dance rhythm, the expressiveness, the creativity, all that was, and ultimately, check it, the African American aesthetic, right? The African, not African, any African, yes, in terms of its roots, but what it really is, excuse me, is an aesthetic that is African American. That amazingly, well, not amazingly, but wonderfully, can be shared by anybody. Black, white, green, purple, male, female, whatever. Anybody can get a piece of this. Oh, what an amazing thing it is. I mean, again, one of the many reasons I'm so proud to be a jazz player is it has all this inclusivity kind of woven into what it is. And the history, I mean, yeah, there's, let's say, things are, as with so many things in the wide world that are commercially, organized and driven, etc. There's not real parity and equity, but in terms of implementation, but in terms of the ideal and in terms of the philosophy, this music is open to everybody. And there's examples of all kinds of people at all ages, including super young and super old, every, whatever the gender side of it, all participating and being expressive. And that beautiful song, toe tapping, all those beautiful things are coming out from this. It's just a profound. I'm really excited about always every single day about being a jazz guy because of these incredible attributes.
absolutely that comes out across loud and clear.
Yeah,
We had mentioned we had a few guests. I
yeah,
wonder if
yeah.
you wouldn't mind doing the
Absolutely.
introductions.
I love them. So the first is a young lady who I've known for quite some years, and we just made a record together. And she's a brilliant educator. She works at Princeton University, and a beautiful singer, and a mom. And her kids are talented. In fact, one of her daughters has come to my jazz camp a couple times, and she's a beautiful, talented bass player. But she's a brilliant, and she's written several books, and she's terrific. Her name is Dr. Trenice Robinson. So let's introduce Dr. Trenice.
Hey, welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
So happy to be
Welcome.
here. Thank you,
Are you
Joe
joining
and
us from
Don.
Jersey?
Yeah,
From Jersey,
All
hey.
right, Jersey in the house.
in the house.
Well, Cali is in the house because I'm born and raised in Oakland. But
Okay,
I have to
Oakland.
put that in there. I have to represent for the West Coast.
That's kind of some of the roots of activism out there in Oakland.
Indeed. Indeed.
The hometown of John Faddis also.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, cool. Shall I go ahead and introduce my stock? Do we hang with Trenice?
Sure. Let's get everybody on board.
Great. And our other guest is another great friend, and he's a classmate from Harvard, and a fantastic filmmaker, brilliant guy. He made a film that was just recently officially released. It's called Song for Our People, and I'm honored to have been in it. And it's a brilliant film, and he's a brilliant guy. A lot of really smart ideas in there, so we'll talk about those. But you can look for the film out there. It's out on Apple, whatever the film part of
Amazon,
Amazon. There
Plus,
you go.
everywhere.
Mustapha Khan. It's out everywhere now. Put your hands together for the great Mustapha Khan.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mustafa.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, Don.
Thanks, brother.
And Joe and everybody. Thank you.
So, well, let's talk a little bit. Let's talk generally first, I guess. We should also, we have examples of stuff that everybody's doing, which is cool to share with that. Let's talk just a little bit about your guys' perception of our overall topic, and then we can branch out to wherever we go. And of course, I want to talk about the film, and I want to talk about the project that Trenice and Dr. Trenice did together. So maybe Trenice first has introduced you first. Maybe just say a word or two about whatever your perspective is about jazz and how it relates to the African American experience or historical elements from your perspective, particularly being a vocalist, let's say, or but whatever you want, or a doctor, whatever you want to say.
No, I mean, this is such a great topic and one that that's very near and dear to my heart because I am extremely invested in people understanding the cultural context of Black folk-based music styles, whether it be gospel, jazz, blues, R&B. And more particularly, I want people to understand how African Americans developed these and maintained some of these core musical elements that had been transplanted even through the slave trade. Core musical elements: song, dance, drum. You know, these Africanisms that maintain in spite of. You know, and you talked about me being a vocalist, and one of the things that people want to remember, or I hope that people remember, that much of the music that was developed by slaves was vocal music, right? Because, you know, they couldn't necessarily grab their instruments, and in many ways, in many places they were banned, including from the drum, depending upon where you were. So as a result, what happens is that they start to express themselves from the standpoint of these hidden messages and these hidden words, as Joe mentioned in his video, where words become loaded. Yes. And all of those aspects, from the melodies, from the stories that that were being created, from the nuances, and how these things really manifested themselves in a greater dialogue of survival, of encouragement, how community being an important element of the music and an important element of the being that you see manifest through all the different styles of Black music. Yeah. So, you know, and I love what you said, Don, about the inclusivity. And Joe mentioned the same thing, the inclusivity of jazz. And, you know, even being in gospel, a lot of people are always asking, well, do you have to be Black to sing gospel effectively? Do you have to be, you know, do you have to be Christian to sing gospel effectively? You know, all of these questions I don't hear when people are asking me about being a jazz musician. So that is.
Ask those questions though.
Did you get those questions?
Yes, because you know why? Because it is known as a Black music, and those who get serious about it, they realize even if they came through it through a white player, you know, they might have came through some of the more enormously popular or brilliant white players such as Bill Evans or Stan Getz, you know, who are the real deal. But you could come through jazz, and there's a whole class. Al Cohn, there's a ton of cats play great, but so you could actually go there and not even realize, and then you go, oh, wait a minute,
right?
And you open to the wider world of the jazz masters. It's mostly Black folks. So
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's one of the things that's really important that we as educators need to make sure that we're sharing in a way of saying, wait, let me show you the legacy that this is coming out of and being built out of, so that you can see where these things connect. So I'm enjoying this discussion for that reason.
Yeah, no, that's great. And you know, you bring a lot of perspectives that are great. You know, and we've talked a lot, but we haven't gotten down and dirty with some of this. And I would, if I may ask you, you know, are your degrees is one of them in ethnomusicology, or you just studied and you know, what are your degrees in?
So my bachelor's is in jazz. My first master's is in jazz studies from IU, which is more history based.
Okay.
History performance based. And then my second master's and doctorate is in music ed with focus in college teaching. So because during that was about my research was all about, well, how do I present the teaching of Black music, particularly gospel music, in an academic setting?
Absolutely.
While still valuing the culture, the tradition, you know, the oral tradition of pedagogy, and try to codify those things. So that's why I'm always like, oh, let me understand the context for which this comes, so that I can articulate this in a manner that's going to be relevant through the academic lens, but at the same time historically correct and culturally viable.
Well, thank you for that, because a lot of folks, and again, through not necessarily entirely their fault or their own necessarily, they just read the books, you know, and they get the paper and go for it. But you know, if you value the truth of the oral traditions, or the truth is maybe not quite the right word, fact maybe, veracity, I don't know. If you acknowledge
the importance,
you know,
significance,
the significance, that's perfect, exactly. And the cultural traditions, so that it goes beyond this kind of purely academic thing, then the real value, the real dimension comes out at the next levels. And I think and of course, most of my ethnomusicology friends, Black or white, are there. You know, they really do. When they get into that, they realize, oh, and then they try to, you know, because more and more that's being realized. In the early days of academia, as you know, it was tricky with the
Yes,
jazz,
it was.
all manner of jazz teaching with that side of it, because academia does tend to go towards things that are very easily
Codified.
and assessed, and stuff that can be written in books, and books are limited as much as we
Right.
love them. You know.
Right.
So I'm really happy to hear, that you really, take it as one of your personal missions to incorporate and express the oral traditions. So,
Do you think we should share the little video that Trenice came up with?
Oh, you want to do that now?
Why not? Now's as
Let's
good a
go
time
for
as any, right?
Let's go for it.
All right. Well, what I'm going to share is an album that Don Braden actually produced of mine, and this album doesn't come out until August. So this is a preview of one of the songs. This is Don Braden's arrangement of What's Going On.
Too many of you crying. Brother, there's far too many of you dying. You know we've got to find a way to bring some love in here today. Hey, Father, we don't need to escalate. You see, war is not the answer, for only love can conquer hate. You know we've got to find a way to bring some love in here today. Got picket lines, brother, and picket signs, brother. Don't punish me, brother, with brutality. Come on, talk to me, so you can see what's going on. What's going on? 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 What's going
Wow.
That was great. That was great.
Yeah.
Yes, it
Wonderful.
indeed.
And
Give
is
you a
that
little
lyric
preview
video?
of that. You know, it's not a complete movie, but I love it, Joe.
Is that a lyric video you're making?
Yep, literally. It's still in process. So, by the time it's released for real, it might not quite look like that. But
it was going
you guys
on
got
and
the
on.
exclusive. You got the exclusive.
There's a preview right
fantastic.
here on Jazz Arts Projects.
And you know what? And I can hear the Don Braden stamp all over that.
Yes. Oh. But
That's
these
fun.
are those moments, where one of the things, and this is when I came to Don, understanding that what I wanted to show was a celebration of all types of Black music and what these different styles mean to me, you know, and how we use music as a voice of activism, how we use the voice jazz and music as a voice of healing, as Don mentioned. So a lot of the things that were really important even in this album was making sure that there was all the influence of me, whether it's R&B, whether it's gospel, whether it's jazz. And I think Don did an excellent job in creating a lot of the arrangements. And most of the time I'd hear something, I'd be like, okay, so I'm gonna steal that, right? Like this one. I'm like, literally, right? I'm like, so you're gonna rewrite that, you know, because his heart was in the same place, in a way of just really wanting to make music that is healing and meaningful.
Yep.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's terrific. And by the way, you should talk for a hot second about that song a little bit, just about what that, I mean, I guess people kind of know, but can you share a little bit about just, because what I remember is I mean, the message is very clear, and Marvin Gaye, I guess it's inherent in the lyric of the song. I mean, basically,
right.
You're looking at what's going on, people being, again, this is civil rights movement, and people being, you know, beat down. It's like, what we need is more love, you know, don't beat them down. Where we're coming from is we're not looking to take anything from you. We want more love. We want to be part of what's a justified, acknowledged part of what's happening. And that's a lot of what's driven Black history is that. A lot of it, probably very much of it, you know, is energies towards that, pulling us, you know.
Right. This song being released in '71. I'm sorry, Carmen. Go ahead.
Oh no, I just wanted to I was just agreeing with Don because you know, one thing that you guys talked about earlier is inclusivity. And so as someone who grew up on Black radio, I didn't grow up specifically with jazz music, but I grew up with music in general. And at that time, Black radio played a lot of different music. But what I liked about you choosing that song, What's Going On, is that that's a song that was a universal song that many people related to. One of the beautiful stories about that song is that was Marvin Gaye's first solo album that I believe he produced, if I'm not mistaken. That he took the reins and he had to force Motown to release that album because it was a social justice, social activist message. And Berry Gordy was used to the sound of Young America being one that was all about crafting a sound that everybody could get into. So he was afraid to go into that direction. And Marvin Gaye opened that door. And that door also opened the door for Stevie Wonder, because Stevie Wonder came in behind him and then did all his albums. And of course, we get Songs in the Key of Life. So I just wanted to mention that because I think in terms of, you have social justice on the larger picture, but also the artist coming through who wanted to have a voice and have an opinion. And, you know, Marvin Gaye of the 60s was more like doo-wop and kind of the ballad singer. And he was ready to kind of move beyond that. So that's just a powerful legacy as well, I think. So I think that.
Yeah, you know, and I think that, you know, piggybacking off of what you're saying, you know, I think putting into perspective the Motown era and putting into perspective how careful, you're right, that Berry Gordy was about protecting that image, you know, so much so that the Edwin Starr hit War, you know, was originally for the Temptations, but they're like, no. We have you where we want. And we don't want to taint that image. We don't, you know, so those are those little things that we don't really get to hear about a lot. The difficulties, you know, that decisions that people had to make for success. To say, am I going to be political or am I not going to be political? You know, but then having young people saying, I want to be a part of the struggle.
Yeah. So to the extent that art had played such a central role in illuminating so many people, you know, but the corporate side of it can go either way. You know, they're ultimately driven by their business interests, of course, and so, and the racial side of it, in fact, it's the opposite in many cases. They don't want to help Black folks. It's often, if we're being honest, it's not about helping Black folks at all. It's either ignoring that issue or well, let's leave it there. At the very least, we don't want to touch that. Let's just make our money, kind of thing. And you know, when they obviously a Black run scenario still has that same mindset, ultimately knowing that they're playing in an unlevel playing field and they got to do what they got to do. But that said, luckily, the moment of what's going on was that choice was made correctly, and ultimately made ultimately a very positive contribution that didn't ultimately detract from the entertainment side of things.
Right.
Not
And a timeless contribution, right?
timeless contribution. That's remembered more than a lot of stuff. You know, certainly for my part, but I mean, who knows? But certainly I think that's something to be honored. So that's great. Thank you so much, and thanks for playing that. That's great.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see the first version of that. So,
Yeah.
first time seeing it even. So cool. All right. Let me introduce our other. I already introduced him, but let me get Mustapha to weigh in on some of the stuff we've talked about. What do you say, bro?
How you doing?
Excellent.
It's just such a pleasure to be here, and absolutely. I mean, celebrating Black History Month is so important. I remember back in the day when we were growing up, it was Black History Week. I don't remember that.
How about that? I forgot.
Yeah. Before that, it was Negro History Week, I think they called it.
Sure.
Kind of crazy.
Don't put that old, Mustapha.
Yeah, I'm not dating myself too much, but absolutely, it's important to mark our history and to understand it. And what jazz does and what music does in general is tell our story when we couldn't really tell our story in other ways. You know, obviously the music and singing and creating music predates, you know, filmmaking, and predates times when it was even allowed for us to read and write. So that's how we passed along stories, and that's how we passed along who we were, and passed along a sense of identity that transcends what an enslaved identity is.
Hello.
And harkens back to a larger human identity.
Hello.
So it was, I always look at the music as a way to humanize our experience and to get back to what we knew we always were. And that we always had that in us. And that's what the music reminds us of, is the ability to transcend the current experience is what music allows us to do, to mentally allow us to go and spiritually allow us to go somewhere else and to see who we really are, even if the reality doesn't allow us to do that.
That is so huge, man. That's a huge statement. That's great.
Mustapha has the greatest voice in the industry, and I'm eager to see. There's a clip of his movie coming out, I think.
Mustapha, talk about the film a little bit, and because what you just said that is right into it. So segue to the film, and then we'll show the clip.
Surely. So I'm a filmmaker. I've been a filmmaker for a while now, and I make both documentary and fiction films, movies, and have had the pleasure to work with a lot of musicians and shot the Newport Jazz Festival and a lot of great musicians. So I kind of go back and forth between music and film all the time. In this case, I just made a film that just came out 2 weeks ago called Song for Our People. And it's a film that really is just about honoring our ancestors and honoring our parents and the civil rights generation of those who've come before us in the Black community, because it's upon all of their shoulders upon which we stand. So the film itself is actually, I'm also a songwriter producer. So I produced this track, wrote this song called Song for Our People that I invited all these different musicians, including the great Don Braden, and Clark Gayton and Jeremy Pelt and a whole crew of monster musicians to work on. And the film itself, the core of the film, is the studio recording over a couple of days of the song itself. It's obviously about larger things than that, but that's kind of the setup of it. So it's to honor our ancestors, and it's out on Amazon and Amazon Prime, iTunes, anywhere you could buy a movie. You could watch Song for Our People. You'd like me to show a clip of it? Trailer?
Yes, please.
Sure. Okay, let me
Absolutely.
Bear with me, please.
Being Black in America.
You're talking about going from slavery or moving into the big cities of America.
We've gone through so much to be where we are.
I wrote this tune that was based on something that I heard a preacher say once. When we die and go to heaven, it's not going to be St. Peter that meets us at the pearly gates. It's going to be a group of our ancestors. And they're going to have one question for each of us. What have you done with your freedom? I called up some artists who I really admire. and invited them to make the song come alive.
Starting the day, I'm doing more with my freedom. Starting the day, I'm doing more with my freedom.
I have a tremendous respect for the ancestors because I think they created music, they brought something with them from Africa, created new music here in the New World.
I hear their voices speaking to me, encouraging me.
It's our duty to still achieve great things despite the effort to keep us down.
We got to break that chain somehow, and hopefully through music and just bringing everybody together, one person at a time.
What have you done with your freedom?
Truly, not enough.
Black men, white cops, broken tail like firing shots.
I just felt free, and I know that freedom came on the backs of my people.
All in this together.
If you don't use your gifts and use them for helping other people, then you've wasted your gifts.
More than anything else, I'd really like this song to inspire people, to inspire us all to keep pushing, to keep fighting to create a more enlightened, more evolved society.
That looks phenomenal. I can't wait to watch that.
Thank you.
That's awesome, Mustapha. I'm excited.
Thank you. Was the volume up enough there? Could you hear it?
Oh, yeah.
Great.
That was perfect.
Oh, great. So it's really a film about creating music down our ancestors. So please watch it. And it's also a film that is the project itself, the music itself I created in order to share with other people and share not only the recording of it, but to share the composition of it so that it's really a song for our people. So I really want other musicians and choirs and church groups to sing the song, sort of in the tradition and rearrange it however they want. I opened the film at which Don was part of, at the Duke Ellington School for the Arts, Performing Arts in Washington, D.C. It's a great performing arts school. And literally gave the charts to the department, to all the music heads in the theater department, and said, do whatever you want with it. Just rearrange it, create whatever you want. And what I'd like you to do is have your students perform the song after the film, after we do a talk back live and everything like that. And they were like, you sure? I said, whatever you want, go do it. And they, of course, created something amazing. And that's kind of the idea of the entire song, is for people to make it their own. I mean, one of the things I thought about a lot was Lift Every Voice and Sing, often called the Black National Anthem, that James Weldon Johnson composed in 1900, and thought, what a gift to the world, not only that you could, create a song that then, is recorded, but create a song that then people can make their own, and that they could sing themselves and arrange themselves and sell it and sing it at different situations and different ceremonies to celebrate or commemorate or to inspire people. So that's really what it's for people to make it their own song for our people. And I just wanted to put it out there and have people perform it, basically. So and that's really what the film is all about.
This gives me a hell of an idea.
Okay.
We have an art house theater here in Red Bank, and it's just, what you're saying, it just occurred to me, if we get our students together to play the song after a viewing of the film, maybe we could arrange something like that.
Absolutely. I'll send you the charts.
Sounds great.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it.
That's the whole point, is to share it. I mean, one of the things, working both in music and film, I think to myself that it's wonderful to have people watch your film, and I enjoy that. I feel very fulfilled by that, but it's a whole other thing to have someone sing your song, in part because they really make it their own in that way, and that they're not stuck in a one place watching and experiencing the piece of art, but they're with their friends. They remember what they were doing when they were singing their song or listening to the piece of music. And so in that way, music sort of transcends so many of the other art forms, in that it really connects people in a way that nothing else can. So that's why I did it. And working with Don was absolutely amazing, of course. To work with, they had a great horn section of Jeremy Pelt and Clark Gayton, who's a childhood friend and scored a movie that I made a few years ago. And it's really, really wonderful to work together and to have everyone come together to create something that's greater than the sum of its parts. And so that's really the metaphor for the entire film, is that we've had 15 different musicians, 15 different artists, including a tap dancer, Omar Edwards, singers, rappers, all sorts of folks coming in to participate in the creation of this piece. And all of us, doing it to honor our ancestors and to show what we could do when we all come together and create something. So that's what it's all about.
I love that you included the tap dancer, because I feel like that's something that is so important to our legacy that it's not incorporated as much as I think it should be. So that was, when I saw the trailer the first time, I was like, yes.
Great. Well, watch the film, please. I mean, he has a big role in the film.
Awesome.
And he was originally a tap dancer in the play Fly. I don't know if you saw that on Broadway, about the Tuskegee Airmen. It was directed by my brother, Ricardo Khan. And I saw him, Omar, perform, and it was music. It was just absolute music that he was doing. So I said, I want to work with that brother. And we just said, let's work together on something. I said, well, I've got something for you. You could come in and do your part. And he certainly did.
Yeah.
Mustapha,
that's fantastic. Mustapha, thanks so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to, can you let people know how can we watch it? Is it on Apple, Amazon?
Yeah, it's on Apple and Amazon. Yep. Okay. Song for Our People. So if you just Google it, if you go to, wherever you get movies. So it's on Apple and iTunes, and it's on Amazon, Amazon Prime, Vudu, YouTube Movies, all those places. So please check it out, and then shoot me an email afterwards and let me know how you enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Yeah, we toured with, did the music, the film festival circuit as well, and then just released it.
Excellent. So, Joe, do you want me to go now? Is that what you're?
Yeah, let's take care of some business here.
Okay. And do you mind, Joe? Do you mind if I tell a little bit of a story about how this came to be? Will that be okay, or will I be stealing your thunder?
We should definitely do that. But before you do any of that, I just want to thank our friends at Monmouth Arts for helping support our organization and these programs, as well as I don't have a graphic, but as well as our friends at Ocean First.
So we just want to say thank you. I'm Carmen Ballantyne, Development Director here at Jazz Arts Project. We want to thank you all for coming out this Sunday for the special Sunday edition. I like it that the sun's still out and the days are getting a little bit longer and it's getting a little bit warmer. So that's really great and wonderful to be here celebrating Black History Month with you all. And I hope you've had a wonderful month. My statement, just to put it out there, I say it's the end of February, but Black History still goes on and on, so not just for the month. So but what I want to just let you guys know is our original plan for today was to be with these wonderful guests, to be live streaming a wonderful concert for you guys. Our original plan was to do a live stream, and unfortunately one of the people that we were working with to help us produce that show, an instrumental part of producing the show to help us live stream it, became ill and unfortunately was diagnosed with COVID. So in the last week or so, we had to kind of re-scramble and figure out what we're going to do. So the great news is that we're working on planning the concert in the future. So hopefully we're going to get this up and get this up and online for you in April.
I think we actually have a date, if I'm not
Do we have a date
mistaken,
already?
Don.
Are we
Is that
doing
right?
April 11th?
April 11th.
Everybody's confirmed.
So we're confirmed April 11th. So great. So I think that's a Sunday. Am I right? It's going to be Sunday?
Yes, it is.
So look at that. All right, guys. So we're already set for Sunday, April 11th.
And that will help with April as National Jazz Appreciation Month.
Correct.
And so the beauty of it is we want to thank everyone for joining us in April, but also joining us today. As you always know, we do present our programs. They are free online, but Jazz Arts Project is a nonprofit charitable organization that produces programs, world-class programs throughout New Jersey and New York. And we also have wonderful music youth education programs. And we've got some of our students on here today. I see Ben is on here, one of our graduates. I see Zach, one of our instructors, is on here as well. We've also got some of our board members here supporting us. And so we want to let you know that Jazz Arts Project is in full swing. We are getting back. We'll be coming back online on March 8th with a very special guest. I believe we have Gary Walker from WBGO is going to be with us on that Monday. And Monday nights with Mooch will be resuming. So all of this takes time, energy, and a lot of sweat equity. So if you wouldn't mind, please take a time and give to us at www.jazzartsproject.org/give. You can make your donations there. We really appreciate it. In April, when we do our event, of course, as I said, it will be free online, but we are going to be doing a fundraiser at that time. And so we will be having a goal and asking people to help us meet that goal. Of course, it's not required. And I always let people know there is no dollar that is too small. $1, $2, $5, $10, $100, $1,000, whatever you got, we take it all. So we really appreciate that. So that's all my spiel.
Thanks, Carmen. I just want to also point out that last year we produced 32, I believe it was, episodes on Monday evenings. Don was a guest on one of them.
Yep.
Of a thing we called Mondays with Mooch. It's basically a hang, and each week we had a special guest. And we're starting, this is next week, March 8th is the first one. We're coming back after the holidays with Gary Walker from WBGO. So I hope to see you all back then. We will send out notices by email, I think, to join that one. So, thank you all for coming. And to Dr. Trenice, Mustapha, Don, this has just been so great. I mean, we could go on for another couple hours with this, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, we just getting started. So it'd be nice to get together again. Whenever it makes sense. So we'll look at that in a future, whatever makes sense. So
maybe we should do that. Just before the April 11th concert, and drum up some.
That'd be fun. Let's plan on that. That'd be really fun if we don't do that. If Mustapha and Trenice are available. I know Trenice is around because she's making the gig, and then if Mus is around, then we can, and we'll think creatively. I'd love to, Mustapha, you reminded me that I have to think creatively about some ways I can incorporate the song as well somehow. So let me think about that. You should send me. Be sure to just email me the PDF of the chart or whatever, just so I can. You know what I mean? Let me think about what I can do. You're muted, brother. You're muted, Mustapha. There we go.
I was saying I'll send you everything and do your own version. Knock yourself out.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm in on that too.
Yeah,
sounds great.
The one in DC was that was just a spectacular.
That was amazing. Yeah.
Me and my wife came. That was the opening. That was the first one, right?
Yep.
It was fantastic, man. So it's such a great. When we can get together again, that's really the thing. And that experience represents, even though it wasn't per se a jazz in the sense of swing, it has the sensibilities of jazz and that black music, cooperation, all the teamwork, plus improvisation in our recording. We did some improvisation as well. And I think my version, when I play with it, I may move it towards the more improvised side of it. And of course, that's the point, right?
That's the point.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And that's, if I want to close with an idea as we wrap up our time here, the idea that jazz is this very flexible thing like water. Water is still water, but you can put it in any shaped vessel. You can put it in any kind of vase, and it's going to find its way, but it's always water. And jazz is like that. Like jazz is got some immutable qualities, African American aesthetic, the swing, the improvisation, creativity. But within that, there's all these ways to have it be this larger participant in life. And because of its history coming out of the black experience, it's a natural reflection of that part of it, which is kind of like, bringing us full circle back to our kind of core discussion. It's a natural way to, it has been a voice of the civil rights movement and a voice of the Roaring Twenties, which we're gonna get new Roaring Twenties. Everybody get ready. We got new Roaring Twenties coming. I'm just saying, right? I think as soon as we get vaccinated next year, whatever it is, we're gonna have a new Roaring Twenties, and jazz will be, right in there with all the other films and everything else, dance and gospel, everything else. That's gonna be we're gonna be shouting from the rooftops. This is
absolutely. Can't wait.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, this has been fantastic. Just another minute or so. If anybody has a question or a statement, just go ahead and unmute yourself and throw it in there, or throw it into the chat room. We just spent a few minutes on that.
Hey Don, I just wanted to I did Litchfield for I think must have been 3 or 4 years.
Zach, really? Sure.
Yeah.
Weren't you at Jazz for Teens as well?
Yes. Yep.
You were.
Yep.
What's up, man? Welcome.
How's it going? Yeah, that really changed my life, Litchfield. So I just want to say I used to spend all day from waking up to the end of the day waiting for the faculty concerts.
Oh man, appreciate that.
I really love that.
Beautiful.
Well, even though it looks like Zach just woke up, he is our education director for the Jazz Arts Project.
I love it. That's great. Fantastic. Let's talk, Zach. Let's talk, man. We should definitely talk.
For sure.
Yeah. Joe, hook us up.
I also I've been reading Blues People. Do you know about this?
Sure, of course. You kidding?
It's like that's also been
Rory Jones. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Love it.
It's a part of my required text for one of my classes this
Absolutely. I've been telling everybody about it now because it's really changed the way I've seen the world. Really.
It's a really important text.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. I'll talk to Joanna. I'll tell her, Joanna Gibson. I think you probably remember her from Jazz for Teens. I'm in touch with her regularly now, so I'll make sure that I let her know we spoke. Let her know that you and I spoke. Any other questions or comments or thoughts, folks?
Well, I have a question. If there was a song or a record or an artist, something you might recommend that we listen to in honor of Black History Month, or in honor of, just
wow,
listening.
Couple of thousand records, maybe.
Well, Mustapha, you have a Song for Our People is something that I want to be following up on after I finish this. And then another thing I'm actually going to follow up on is there is a new film that came out about Billie Holiday.
Yes.
There's an actress in there by the name of Andra Day who I actually got to see live. But I've been listening to her recordings, and I've actually listened to her talk about portraying Billie Holiday and what she gets into as an actress. She really got into the heart of Billie Holiday. So I'm looking forward to that performance. So those are two things I'm following up on: Song for Our People, and I'm going to watch a Billie Holiday performance by this young woman.
Thank you. Great.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of amazing records. As far as jazz records, my favorite, let's say, straight ahead swing jazz records that are typically from the late '60s, and so because that was the era where the actual swing, harmony, improvisation stayed in the groove before it branched off into avant-garde, and then the music got the next level of heavy, which is cool, but it did go these several different directions, because it broke off into a real funk thing, and that's a whole thing. It's fusion and stuff. Then the avant-garde turned into a whole thing. So right before that, though, there was a real focus, and that era, 64, 65, is probably one of the best records is Wayne Shorter's album "Speak No Evil." That's probably my favorite.
Speak No Evil. Speak No Evil.
1964.
Yeah. Okay. Wayne Shorter, Speak No Evil. That's on my list.
Wayne Shorter, who are both still alive. Ron Carter, also still alive. Elvin Jones on it passed away, and Freddie Hubbard passed. But those five guys, that's like a magical quintet. And that record just has a vibe of modern jazz at its best. But there's a ton of them. All kinds of Miles Davis records from that same era, some Coltrane from that same era. Just really the African American aesthetic, but super creative as well. So you get that intellectual elements that people don't necessarily associate, but are of course there. but the manifestations are very clear and obvious. That's what I love about it. Like, it's really that black, total negroidal, just swing, but super deep. Like you like, and people don't think of those things together, but of course they are together, and that's what I love about those records. Like, they're very clear manifestations of that interweaving of things that often people think of as disparate, but of course are not. They're really woven together.
And just to add to that list, I think one of my favorites right now is Operation Breadbasket, the Cannonball Adderley.
Oh, yeah.
And particularly when you listen to the album as recorded during the meeting and then understand all of the things that Operation Breadbasket was in Chicago at that moment, it's like, man, you listen to it with a whole nother lens when you put it in context. So,
love it.
Operation Breadbasket by
Cannonball Adderley.
All right, thank you.
Do you have one, Mustapha or Joe?
I've been listening to a lot of Nina Simone lately.
Woo!
Who just completely transports me into
there you go.
The complexity, pain, joy of our experience.
Oh yeah.
And soul of our experience in such a fundamental way.
Absolutely.
I was just listening to I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free.
Sure, of course. The Taylor tune. Yeah.
The Bill Taylor tune. And just absolute transcendence. So, all along with all of her, Strange Fruit and Mississippi Goddamn and everything else of hers.
For Women. And just
yes, absolutely.
Okay, so here's the thing. Just for time constraints, we're going to end the official proceedings in a minute. I'll stop the recording and stop the Facebook feed. But as our usual custom is, we have an after gig hang. So anybody wants to hang out a little bit and continue the conversation a little bit, you're more than welcome. But officially, I want to thank everyone for coming. Don, Dr. Trenice, Mustapha, you've been incredible guests. We all learned a lot, and we're going to follow up on your projects for sure.
And April 11th. You're coming back April 11th.
Absolutely.
You guys are coming back April 11th. And everyone, don't forget, next week, March 8th, Gary Walker from WBGO will be here on Mondays with Mooch at 7 p.m. On this same Zoom channel, actually. But we'll send you information about that. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay. Thank you.